Welcome back. Here's an interesting parenting question. Can we teach our children to persevere when the chips are down? You know, carry on in the face of adversity. Well, Christine Carter is here to tell us. Christine is the author of the book, Raising Happiness. She's also the director of the Greater Good Science Center's parenting program at UC Berkeley. And a lot of people in education are talking about this concept of grit now. Get kids to just barrel through, get up and do it. Is grit something you're born with, or is grit something you develop?
Grit is most definitely something that we develop. It's a learned skill. You need an exposure to adversity, to struggle, or even just minor challenge in order to learn how to push through it, right? Okay. So it's a skill.
And how would you describe grit? If you were describing a child having grit, what would you describe them as being able to do?
Yeah, you described it really well in the beginning, actually, as a measure of perseverance for researchers. When we give kids something difficult to do and measure how long they'll stick with a difficult task, that kid is said to be gritty if they stick with it for a long time.
Okay, so now here's where the other parents will probably yell at me when I'm out at the soccer field. Most parents nowadays, don't we tend to try to hover over the kids, protect the kids, and doesn't that then encumber their ability to have grit? I mean, the way we parent now, it seems like a lot of the things of being friend and, oh, it's okay, you're good. That was fantastic, even though you didn't make it in the hoop and you can't really play. But you're good.
Yeah, you're fine, right? Yeah, no, I think we are parenting kids away from becoming more gritty or hindering their ability to persevere. And it's kind of natural in a way, right? We want to protect our children from pain. We want to protect them from suffering, certainly. But when we do that, we do a couple of things. Three things, really. We're teaching them that it must be really horrible to make a mistake or to struggle or to face a challenge, because if it weren't horrible, then why would mom or dad be trying so hard to protect me from that experience, right? Right, yeah. The other thing that we teach them, and they learn this correctly, is that they can't cope with a difficult situation. So they're faced with a challenge and they're not going to persevere through that challenge because they think that they don't have the tools. And in fact, if we hover and do everything for them and protect them from any sort of struggle, then they don't develop those skills. So they're correct in their belief that they can't cope. And then the third thing that we're teaching them when we protect them from challenge or pain is that they're entitled to a life free from challenge
and that struggle. Down the road is the one that you come up against all the time.
Right. Why should I be gritty? Why should I persevere in this challenge if I feel deeply entitled to not have to?
Okay, so how do you teach grit? How do you teach them to make it through something? Where is the line between teaching grit and kind of just not parenting at all, or like, yeah, go out and do it yourself? Where is that line? And how do you teach that? How do you put them up against a situation that's bad and say, figure it out?
Yeah. Well, I think the first step as a parent is to realize that a little suffering, a little emotional pain in particular, is not necessarily a bad thing. That for kids to experience a challenge or even to make a mistake, it's a good thing for them. It's an opportunity, really, for them to experience their own resilience, to learn that they are, in fact, resourceful. So a lot of it is really simple. It's just letting kids forget their PE clothes and get detention, or letting them turn in homework that they clearly struggled with and that you didn't overhelp them with, right? That they are not going to stop. The heart isn't going to stop beating because they got a B.
Okay, do you get to give the lecture about, I told you to do this before, or you don't get to give the lecture? I really love giving the lecture. I told you.
Well, my question for you, is it effective for you?
No, but it makes me feel better.
Right. Well, you can later, I mean, I think one of the most valuable things that parents can do is to let kids make mistakes and then later revisit it. And so in our family, we call this failure analysis, because it comes from, I used to be in product development, and that's what we called it then. And so we say, when people aren't feeling so bad about it, when the kids are sort of recovered from it, we say, okay, let's do a little failure analysis here. You know, that time that you didn't forget your PE clothes, well, what did you do differently there? Or that time that you did better on your project, what did you do there? Okay, what did you do this time? What would be a better strategy so that you don't make the same mistakes again? And that is really a part of this approach of sort of embracing challenge, even when we don't succeed through that challenge, right? We embrace that because we can learn things that you wouldn't learn any other way. And so we don't want kids to hide their mistakes, because then they can't learn from them.
And how valuable is it for a parent to allow a child to see them make mistakes or be resilient or be able to bounce back and not hide challenges that you're going through so that they can see you and model that.
It's extremely valuable. You're teaching them that it's okay to make a mistake, because mom makes mistakes all the time. And you're teaching them how to behave in the face of a struggle or a challenge. You can narrate that for them. You don't need to do it perfectly either, right? You don't have to model perfect mistake making, right? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You can say, oh, I feel like I'm not doing this well. I'm really struggling in this area of my life. This is what I'm doing to take care of myself while I'm having this difficult situation. You know, just modeling good strategies that you would like to see your kids use is probably the best advice ever.
And quickly, any difference in the way the things you should expect from a little kid to a teenager in terms of resilience?
Well, teens become much more oriented towards risk when they're trying to leave the nest, right? Which means that particularly risks in which they can gain some sort of social status by taking them. So this is actually a great opportunity for them to develop grit, to learn to persevere. But as adults, behind the scenes, we really need to help calibrate those risks for them, give them lots of opportunities to fail in ways that aren't going to harm their health or their overall well-being.
Christine Carter, you're so good. I wish you could live with me. I'm going to need you to do some in-house training. Up next, we take you inside the Collab Lab.